Hello and welcome back. I'm Bebo Jones. This is WRSR Resources Soviet Republic. This is a quick look at the new upcoming update, which is trash, recycling, research, maintenance, new farms, a lot of stuff and a lot of new buildings and a lot of everything that we have to talk about. It is probably the biggest update yet, and there are a lot of things that we have to look at and talk about, and I hope I give you a quick overview of everything that's going on. So, see you in a sec. I want to be very clear. This is probably the biggest update that this game has seen, and it changes a lot of things and makes things more complex if you wanted to. So I will try to touch on a lot of things, probably mostly around trash, but I will mention everything else. Just let's mention everything else before, because trash takes up about 70% of those updates. So let's look at it. Well, the first thing, fields. They're changing. Fertility is now a thing. And actual nutrient level is also a thing. The higher your nutrient level, the higher the fertility after you harvest, from what I can gather. And that's nice. That's really neat. When you plop down a field, it starts at 70%. For your existing republic, it goes to 10%, and you may not be able to do anything with the field right away. And at 100%, you get the yield that you were used to from before this update, just in case you're wondering. So that's cool. I like it. I like it a lot. And here's something interesting. When you take this down and have this dark soil underneath it, the field actually cares. Okay, so you plop this back down right where it was. It was 70% before, and now fertility is 10%. Just be aware of that. Nice little add, and there's no nutrient level. You can add nutrients via fertilizer, it's liquid or solid, which is pretty nice. The next thing, research. Universities matter now. And I encourage you to go down here. There are some updates here. There's some pictures now. But go down here, talk to the commissioned scientist. I don't think it's very clear, and I think they're going to change this again. But what is there to research? There's stuff to research, and the white background is medical university. The blue background is a technical university, and the red background is the palace of communism. And there's a lot to research. A lot of trees. The big ones, maybe to point out, distribution offices are locked behind this. TV and radio are locked behind here. The secret police is locked too. Airplanes and tourism is locked. And there's just a lot of stuff that's locked here. Helicopters, fire helicopters. Oh, you would like one of those? Well, you have to research them first. Tourism, like, there's a lot of stuff that's research locked. It's actually fun. Even the recycling process is all research locked. Some power is research locked. Airports, again, your resources, your geology, your map does not. So that's all hidden. And you can no longer see all the stuff that's on the maps if you have research enabled. If you have research disabled, that's fine too. Play the way you want to play it. But yeah, everything is kind of hidden. You do have planting policy. So every time you cut down a tree, you plant a new tree. So I know a lot of people like that. You have basic research for pollution filters. That's cool. And so on and so on. There's just a lot of stuff going on here. We don't have to go into the details of all of that because there's no time. Here, this is what it looks like. You can actually do these things, and that's very, very nice. Let's just open them all up. They all do something now. Okay, let's just deal with that. And yeah, that's all I'm going to talk about here. Trash. Is that all I want to talk about? Yes. No, maintenance. Maintenance. One thing. Every building, all the buildings have a wear and tear on machines. Wear and tear on machines only matters for industries. Every other building has wear and tear, okay? The industries have both. Once they are at a higher level, they will effectively shut down or not produce anything anymore. As you can see, productivity and efficiency is also affected by it. Nice, right? It all matters now. Vehicles also have that thing. Yeah, we're gonna look at all of those, don't worry. But vehicles also have that thing where you can just look at, hey, this vehicle has low wear and tear. That's neat. It's supposed to show me what the actual wear and tear is, but apparently they updated that recently. And that's fine. If you want to see how all your vehicles are doing, you can go to this now, which I barely ever used before, and you can look at all your vehicles and say, hey, I want you to now go to repair when you're at 50% or more. And that's really neat, right? Like if they break down, they block your whole traffic, and that will be a big problem. So maintenance is definitely a thing, especially for vehicles. Let's just get started with all the buildings. So there's a lot. Sorry, I'm zooming through this because I want to get through all of that in a reasonable amount of time. Trash is down here, waste. If you have research on, a lot of stuff is blocked. Like for most of the other nicer buildings, a lot of stuff is just going to be research blocked, and that's fine. but we don't want to do that right now. So let's turn the research off. From left to right, small container stands, bigger container stands with small containers, and large container stands with bigger containers. The first thing I will tell you is these containers are not the same. To pick up these, you need one type of truck, and to pick up those, you need a different type of truck. They cannot be the same. These are large containers, these are small containers. Cool, makes sense. The small one, you can only store trash in it, and that's it. The bigger ones, you can store trash in it, but you can also assign different containers to different things if you have research for recycling unlocked, and then the containers actually tell you what they are. I think that looks pretty nice. Green obviously is biohazard, which you shouldn't have in your residential areas. Brown is bio-waste, and plastics, aluminum, and steel or metal. And yep, that all makes sense. You can pick them up, and that is wonderful. Same thing for the bigger containers. You can already do the recycling thing if you wanted to. However, it is, if you have research for recycling not unlocked, only your industries will recycle, your residents will not recycle. Cool, that's the first thing. Let's go down the list here. We have all these buildings, and we're just going to go down a list. This is a normal general separation. You give it mixed waste, and you put it, or you get out this stuff. That's neat. This one is a different scrap separation one for metal scraps. Give it mixed waste and get all the metal scrap out. As you can see, there's a little difference in the efficiency. Not sure if those are balanced well enough yet or not, but they're there. They exist. And here you do the same thing for aluminum. Makes sense, right? Then you have this guy, gravel recycling plant. If you get construction waste. How do you get construction waste? By tearing down buildings and needing a demolition office. We're going to get there in just a little bit, but that's one way to get that. You can also import construction waste, but it's not always worth it. Let's see, what do we have here? We have construction waste. You pay $3 to get a ton. You're not getting paid. For some, like hazardous waste, you would get paid $800 per ton to import that, but I'm sure they'll be turned off too. At some point there was a waste import, I don't want to say bug, but exploit, that was just turned off because it was silly. Then you have another one here, the plastics recycling plant, the steel recycling plant, and the aluminum. All the recycling buildings have a little bit of blue. All the separation buildings have a little bit of red. I think they look pretty. Here, this is something people care about. We have the incinerator, where you give it mixed waste and it will start burning stuff. And this will just burn things because your customs house will be overrun if all you do is bring all your trash to the customs house. You cannot do that much past the initial settlement. So be aware of that. How aware do you have to be? Okay, for example, if we look at our steel industry, how much waste do you produce? You produce 46.67 tons of garbage a day. How much is that? Well, let's take this container. This container, this stand is going to be completely filled in a single day with trash. The problem is these containers can only be picked up one at a time. That is a lot of containers a day. So you got to think about this. You got to figure things out. Sometimes an incinerator is better because it's not the customs house. So that's neat. Another thing, here's a power plant. This is smaller than the coal and the oil power plant, but same thing. Some things burn better than other things, if you're wondering about that. Over here we have a heating plant. This one is right in the middle between the large and the small heating plant, so that's neat, but that all works. Then over here we have a scrapping facility. This one's just for road vehicles. There is supposed to be one for rail vehicles as well. And then we have a shipyard one, which is just humongous, and I just didn't place it because this is what it looks like. It's neat. It does exactly what you want it to do. So that's awesome. Then these guys. They are misleading at first. I used them wrong for a very long time. These are the dumps. They are over here. Dump small, dump medium, and then dump free. That's just a normal aggregate storage dump. Or no, it's just a dump. So, only use these to extend your import of industries because it's super fast to dump anything here. It's super slow to pick anything up from here. It's just not worth it. It takes so long, and if you actually drop off and pick up at the same time, you're not going to catch up with it. So only dump stuff off here in the dump. Do not pick up anything from there because it's not going to work. So this little dump over here it's probably not going to be worth building ever, even if it's free. But just be aware of that. If you do have to pick up, you have to go to the dumps with claw machine. And there are 3 different ones. There's a small one, there's a big one, and there's a big one with train connections. And they do exactly what you expect them to do. The claws speed everything up, but they do need power. So that makes sense. These guys are very, very confusing because I used them very wrong for a very long time. The transfer for big garbage containers. So these are not to be connected to a lot of things. So you have all your normal factory connections. If you connect them to any of your garbage storages, nothing's going to happen because they don't pull anything in. They're not an active engine. You cannot use forklifts to connect them to anything. So none of that is going to help. What you want to do with these is drop off your small volume trash so it goes into a bigger container so you can combine it into one bigger load. That's really what these are for. And they do really well at that because you can go in here and tell them, oh, you can't tell them what you want to store. You go in here and they can store anything they want, and it's per container, which is actually pretty neat. And if you connect them to an industry, they can collect trash from there, but these are excluded from technical services to pick up. So just in case you're wondering about that. The small one works exactly the same, and I will show you this in just a second, only drop off your stuff here to collect it in a bigger container. So bigger trucks do not want to go here. Cool. What else do we have? Well, there are more buildings everywhere. So we have different construction buildings, a 6, a 12, a 16, and a 24. They may look like some models that you've seen before. Then we have a demolition office. They're exactly what you think they are. They are reverse construction offices. And you can have a free one if you want to, but they work just fine. The only cool thing about them that you may not know is that they can use explosives. Speaking of explosives, there is the explosives factory right here. For a few chemicals and a tiny bit of gravel, you get a ton of explosives. That could be one heck of a new import, because if you look at the explosives cost right now, and I haven't done that yet because explosives weren't available, you get 1,100, almost 1,200 ruble per ton. Chemicals will cost you about 800, and then gravel costs you nothing. So you can make a little profit on that. And I didn't do the right math. 3/4 of this is not 800, but you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, that's a nice option, and it just requires a couple workers. So that's neat. Other things, we have new rare construction office buildings. We have a short one. This was the original one, and we have a long one. At some point, the length of these buildings will probably determine if you can add a rail crane or not, because this one is 63 meters. This building is only 44 meters long, so it shouldn't fit in there. It should only fit in here, but hey, that's why we're still internal. We're getting there. What are these? These are maintenance repair stations for vehicles. They look as you expect. They have a couple garages there, a couple parking spots for the vehicles that work here, and they come in different sizes: small, medium, large. How do they work? They have a quite interesting way to function. One of them is this. If you go here and you want to place them, I'll place them on water right now. You see that square around them? That is very similar to the old school helicopter attachments to like hospitals or fire station or any of those places where they actually light up. These squares do something very similar. The only difference is you can connect buildings that are effectively acting as depots that have vehicles stored in them part of the time, like a rare construction office, a regular construction office, a road depot, a vehicle end station, a rail end station. Like other buildings where vehicles are actually parked for a certain period of time can be connected to this building. And if you do that, the vehicles in those buildings get repaired while they're in the building that's connected to the repair station. Otherwise, the repair station has to send out a truck that needs materials loaded on them and then go out to the place and try to fix vehicle there. It's pretty cool, actually. I like it. So, yeah, those were most of the new buildings that we've seen so far. There are more. There are more aggregate storages. There are more loading, unloading for rail. There are smaller versions of some buildings. There are a lot more residential buildings, especially prefabs. There are a lot of buildings, just a lot. But right now, for some reason, they're not available on this branch in particular. But they're there. Trust me. So, how does all of this work? Well, these people, these good people, will slowly but surely generate trash. And we're just going to follow this one just for a little while. The trash that is currently there is 0.9 tons, and there's a little pickup truck. And it's 0.9 tons, 0.11 tons, and at some point the trash is overflowing. Hey, it's full, and it's overflowing. Once it's overflowing, and there's a truck coming by, once it's overflowing, at some point it will produce pollution. I don't know if the smaller ones that are part of the buildings actually produce pollution, or if it's only the bigger containers, but at some point they produce pollution. So we want this truck to actually go and pick it up. So the truck is doing its thing now, picking it up, has a little animation, it's very pretty, goes over here, does the next thing, and the technical service truck is actually smart enough to not go to the transfer station right away. It just runs around and does its thing. It's like, oh, there's more stuff over here. Can I get more anywhere else? And we'll just drive around until it's full. Now, as you can see, this is not very efficient, but we're going to get into fixing that later. Who all produces garbage? Everyone. These guys produce garbage too. This one's already full, and that little truck is supposed to, yep, it's going to come over here and pick it up. I don't know if you saw that, but there was a little animation for too much waste sitting there, and that may have caused some pollution. Pollution, obviously, is a bad thing, so you have to be worried about that. But the truck is just going to run around until it's relatively full. It's not going to be full, but it may be 80% or so, and then it just goes somewhere. Pretty simple. Over here, technical service office. This one is the one that did the water, sewage, and snowplows before, and still does. But now you have a couple more things added. Isn't that exciting? Yes, it is. So what do you need to do? You need to tell them where to bring all the waste that they collect. They will collect it by themselves, and they will tell you what they can connect to, like so. But you still have to tell them where to drop it off. You can assign a custom cells, but as I explained earlier, that will at some point create a lot of extra trips, which you do not, I repeat, you do not want. So be patient with that. But yeah, it's just going to drive around and eventually drop off its stuff in an appropriate place. So let's let it run for a little bit. There you go. And everything got dropped off into here. Of course, I jumped a little too far, but yeah, there's a container full now. What should we do with the container? We can send a small truck, if we wanted to pick up the stuff from here, or, this is much better, we could send a truck that has the right storage, which is this one. Where are you gonna go? You're gonna come out here. Why? Because this building over here only has like a normal container sitting there. It doesn't just have the small container. So the truck over here could not, oh sorry, the truck over here can't even go to the industries and pick up waste from the industries unless the industries have the small garbage containers, so the small waste containers. So you need this container to come out here, do its thing, and while it's doing that, it's just, well, going in there, has another little animation that we can barely tell because it's in the building, but that's fine. And there's your container. It's full now. And it's going to go wherever it's going to drop it off right here, which is really nice. And once that's dropped off, it just created a whole new container of waste. There you go. And now loading and unloading is really fast here if you use the skid loaders, which makes sense, right? Makes perfect sense, actually. So there's that. The next thing, what we should talk about is probably, well, there are two things. There are two things actually we want to talk about. The first one, factory connections got a little facelift. Make factory connection one way. Yep, we only want to move stuff one way now. I don't know if there are a lot of reasons why you want to use that, but it makes sense because in this case we have this composting plant that takes bio-waste and turns it into fertilizer. This storage right here can take both because they're both treated as the same thing. Even though they're not the same thing right here, they are treated as the same thing. Let's see here, bio-waste. If you hover over it, then you can see there is just not a lot of bio-waste left, but it's mostly fertilizer that's stored here now. But if you drop more bio-waste off, then eventually that turns into fertilizer. The plan is, or at least the last thing I heard, is to have bio-waste take a very long time and high temperatures to turn into fertilizer. I'm not sure if that's going to be implemented that way, but it takes a long time to turn bio-waste into fertilizer right here. The composting plant does it almost immediately, but oh, they actually updated this. This is awesome. At some point, this was 0.75 tons of chemicals with some bio-waste, and that was too much. But now, this number is much better, and you just take a little bit of chemicals, a lot of bio-waste, turn it into fertilizer, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, they're doing their thing. The way I have this set up is this guy, this livestock haul range. It is very can't really tell that it's special, but the livestock haul range does not tell you that it has a garbage production, which is sad because it produces the most waste out of all industries, potentially the most one, at least bio waste. So that's why it's connected the way it is. We get cows go in here. Once the cows are in here, they produce waste, and then the waste will be turned into fertilizer. And then you can use the fertilizer on your farms. So you can have a very nice, very nice looking farm setup with actual cows and other things too, which I think is pretty neat. What are you doing? Whatever. So those are all things that are really nice, and that's how that's going to work. Now you can pick it up from here with a distribution office or with a direct line or whatever, and that's fine. The last thing I want to show you is this button. Copy source buildings to another building. Does exactly what you think it would do, and it's probably most helpful on construction offices. So I'll tell you that you can't go there. Well, I'm not going to do it right now, but you can tell these guys to just have all the same things, and you update it somewhere, and you then can copy it again. Once you update it, it's not going to be updated everywhere else. You have to actually do it manually. But I think that makes perfect sense. So yeah, that's the overview of all the things that are going on. This is how trash runs around. Couple observations from me playing for probably 2 months on the other branch is this: maintenance for vehicles becomes a problem within the first 4 to 5 years of getting that vehicle. So you don't have a lot of time to wait until you need vehicle maintenance. Very important. Building maintenance takes a lot longer, so that's nice. Train maintenance also takes a lot longer, and I haven't built a train yet in 10 years or whatever I have on the Patreon series. So that is that. The other thing is trash will overload your customs house really, really early. So you have to add collection points that can handle the amounts of trash that you want to run around. The other thing you probably want to do is add these containers. You can either use the small ones or the big ones. I don't care. I don't think the super small ones are helpful for the big buildings, but just in general, add some container stands somewhere that can do more connection, or that can do more collection, which is very helpful because the technical service office does this for water as well, where they will only go to the places that actually require it. But as you can see, this guy's still going out to this building. Why is that? Because it had some trash. So they'll continue going out if there is trash still stored here. But all the future trash is going to go to this thing. And you can see how fast this is filling up. I'm only running at double speed, and that's not slow, which is, to me, that's awesome, but it's also a problem. You have a lot of people here. There's a little bit of garbage sitting there. Yeah, this garbage truck is just going to collect things, and the technical service is going to send out the container truck once there are 6.5 tons or a full container sitting here, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, you have to combine them pretty soon. Garbage distance. It's about 130 meters. It's not very long, and you actually have to plan for them now to add them to your thing. Obviously, they're not very large, and there are versions that have footpaths, which are just from the smaller containers, you have containers with footpaths. There you go. They're not very large, which is necessary. But yeah, they're not going to get you very far necessarily all the time. But this is all working. As you can see, now that I have this container added here, there's not as much traffic from a technical service office, which means less fuel waste, which is awesome. Yep, and this one still sits here, and that's what we're doing. Thank you so much for watching. This is just a quick look at all the new stuff for waste, and I hope you enjoyed it. There are a lot of updates in this thing. There are a lot of new models, a lot of new vehicles, a lot of new buildings, a lot of new everything that you probably want to check out once it comes out. Again, as far as I know, we're talking just a few more weeks until this should become available in beta. And I'm excited to share this with you as we move along. So, hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.